Okay, well, we will collectively thank Fenny and I think one other who reminded me of it. So it genuinely is necessary. I do forget to do these things. As will be wildly evident from the recording of the of Saturday's class where we did where with the Saturday group we did verses 1 and 2 of the Karaniya Metta Sutta, where I totally forgot about the recording until the halfway break, so only the second part of it, the second hour, is recorded. However, sorry, that sadly is now missed and gone for all time. However, you will all have seen, hopefully, the separate set of teaching videos I've done. Not in class, just me explaining the Karaniya Metta Sutta. So in fact, as we go along, there are going to be, you'll have three lots of things to look at. You'll have the written text that I've done, the written analysis. You'll have the recording of the class, and you'll have the teaching video that I've done. So what we'll be doing now is to, sorry, before I go on, I said I hope that many of you will have seen the video the recording that I put up the day after the Saturday session. Okay, well, I'm seeing some kind of mixed signals from Marion, but she's aware of it. Some of you are an unmixed signal, yes. Anyway,
saw half.
I'm sorry.
I saw half of the half of the
half of the half. Well, yeah. You know the saying, the half of the half. Well, it's better than a poke in the eye with a blunt stick.
Indeed.
So what we will do now, if there are any questions, I think the group now is getting small enough after my initial panic when I saw that a total of 140 plus had signed up. I think we're getting small enough now to be able to take in individual queries. So if there are any individual queries on verses 1 and 2, then I'll welcome them now, and either now or as we go along, or indeed, if you prefer, by email to me between any time, and I'll deal with the emails as we go along. Another point I would mention is that several of you who are, I think there may be some here who are very unfamiliar with Pali and haven't studied Pali or haven't studied it much in the past, may be somewhat daunted and even baffled by some of the material that comes up, because here with this text, this isn't a simplified text written for students that we're looking at here. This is the real, unadorned, genuine old Pali text that we're looking at. So those of you who are unfamiliar with Pali grammar will be seeing a lot of material that is completely unfamiliar to you, and this is just raw exposure to the real thing. So hopefully a lot of it will stick as we go along, but mainly you should have a better understanding of the real meaning of this chant as we sing it, as we chant it rather, as in our Sangha we regularly do. And the alternating session where we're looking at the textbook, Ger and Karunatilaka, will of course be a more methodical introduction to the grammar. So if any of you are finding this raw exposure to the original Pali a bit much, don't feel any obligation to stay with this particular series, though I hope you do, because the parallel series that we're doing, the Ger and Karunatilaka, will present it in a more methodical, orderly way. more suitable to those who are very unfamiliar with it. But hopefully, with the various notes that I've given on the analysis I've done, hopefully it'll be useful enough for a good bit of it to stick. So what I will do now, I'll call up the text. Let me just start off by get this Metta Sutta up. I'm just going to share screen. It was a bit of a palaver while we do this. Share screen.
Yeah.
Right, to readjust my gallery every time I share screen. Right, do you see the first page of the Metta Sutta? Good, very good. Also, there's something that I only just discovered the other day of what do you see now? Do you see any shared screen? You don't. Good, okay, because I only discovered this a day or two ago. I can pause the sharing. So now do you see the shared screen again? Hey, it works. Good. It's a new button I've just discovered after 5 years of Zoom. So when I want to stop sharing, I don't have to shut down the entire screen share thing. I just press the pause button. Those of you who have been with me for some time know that my other name is not Mr. Technology. So what I will do then, I will just recite, not in a chanty way, but in a kind of semi-chanty way, the first two verses that we did in the previous class when you or most of you weren't with me, and then we'll start looking at verse 3. So, Karaniyang attakusalena yantang santam padang abhisavecha sakko ujucha suhujucha Suvachochassa mudu anatimani santus, where are we? Come on. Santus sakocha subharocha appakichocha sallahukavutti santindriyocha nepakocha appagabho uleswananugidho. In case any of you have been puzzled, kulesu ananugidho, not hankering after families. This particular text I prepared quite some time ago, and I put in what's known as a sandhi. It's not kulesu ananugidho, but kuleswananugidho. In Sanskrit, if this sandhi is very routinely made, in Pali it's not, and I think actually I've seen some texts where it's written as kuleswananugidho, others kulesu ananugidho. Does anyone not know what I mean by sandhi? Okay, you all know what I mean by sandhi then. So by a zero show of hands, do I understand you all know what I mean by sandhi?
No, I don't.
Ah, okay. Sandhi.
I don't either.
So, that was Russell.
I don't.
Okay. Sandy, you are going to get to know that word as we go along. Sandhi just means what happens when one word meets another. In fact, the word sandhi, let's have a bit of fun etymology now. And just let me call up iPad. Oops, give me a moment while I link my iPad to the screen.
Yep.
Somebody just said, yeah. Who did? Who made an affirmative noise just then?
I think I did.
Okay, you get a gold star for that, Krista. And I tell you why, because before, when I was fumbling about with trying to get this shared screen thing working, and especially sometimes the shared iPad screen wasn't working, every single time, in case it wasn't showing, I'd have to ask the group collectively, can you see shared screen? So if somebody makes an affirmative noise, as Krista just did, as soon as you see the shared screen coming up, that'll save me having to ask you. There are these various things where I invite you all to shout out at once, like, for example, if I fail to share it, fail to record, and so on. Now, it's going to be happening time and again that you think we're starting off with a particular text and we go on go down a little sidetrack. Those of you who've been with me for several years in the classes of the Buddhist Society will know that we call them rabbit holes. Now, the advantage of the rabbit holes is, firstly, I feel perfectly happy to go off piste, as it were, and because the students in the last 5 years have universally told me that they really enjoy them, that they're very useful. But one thing, whenever I introduce material in these rabbit holes, I am very, very carefully not to introduce any material that won't be of any use to you. So although we're looking at new words and new material that we're not actually dealing with this not formally dealing with in this lesson, nevertheless, it'll all be good stuff that will be useful for you. So let me just... we're looking at the word sandhi, which basically means putting together. All students of Sanskrit will know much about sandhi because the rules of what happens when one word joins another are very precise in Sanskrit, and you will just see it happening, the entire time. It's actually from our root, from the root da, which means basically it means to put. In the earliest times, I mean, in Indo-European, and you find it over several of the Indo-European languages, the verb, the idea of putting and doing are very often merged into one. And although it doesn't actually look like it on the face of it, take it from me for the moment, that the root dha and our English word to do, in fact, etymologically, that same word. Anyway, on dha, when it comes at the end of a compound, it is a d, just becomes d. So dha together. The prefix sam just means together or with. And it's the same as the Latin co and con, meaning together or with. I mean, co and con, which have come into thousands of words in modern English and that we're using the entire time. Conjoin, complete, co-worker, convince, commiserate, condolence. So many of these words that we use has the idea of togetherness or completion. The very word complete. Pletus is the Latin for full. Completus is the idea of a finishing off of a process. And in Sanskrit and Pali, the s in Sanskrit and Pali became a k in Latin, but the Latin co and com and the sum of Sanskrit and Pali are the same word. Sandhi means putting together. What happens when two words come together? You get sound changes. And we see one right here. If we put sam plus d, it's a very natural sound change for the that m to become a n because of the following dental. That's why it becomes sandhi. So this word sandhi, meaning putting together, shows in itself the sandhi of the m becoming a n before a d, sandhi. I'm going to show you another bit of sandhi. By the way, among modern linguists, the Sanskrit name sandhi has actually become a standard use among Western linguists. And interestingly enough, even with a non-European language, like Qianhui's native language, Chinese, yes, Qianhui, you talk about tone sandhi. So linguists will talk about tone sandhi. Now, what I mean by tone sandhi, the Chinese for you is ni, okay, ni, third tone. Good, hao, hao, see, third tone. But you don't say ni hao. The third tone becomes so ni hao. So it changes. You don't say ni hao, but ni hao. Now that is known as tone sandhi. That means where the tone of a word changes because it meets another word in a certain tone. And not is bu. Is sure. But you can say bu sure, you say bu sure, because the bu fourth tone before another fourth tone becomes second tone. You can say bu yao, say bu yao. Did I get that right, Qianhui? Thank you. Thank you. So this idea of sandhi. Now, in Latin, as I was saying, we have the con, meaning the same as the sam, meaning with. And we have the Latin word for full, which is pletus. Put those two together, and by sandhi, what happens when one word meets the N wants to become an M because it's immediately before a P. So that's why in English we have complete. So condolences, conjoin, connubial. The con stays as con. Put it before a P and it becomes an M. That is an example of sandhi, putting together. So sound changes that occur when you put a word or part of a word ending with a certain sound, and it joins with the sound that completes the word or a new word. So sandhi, putting together. Incidentally, there is another prefix, very, very common prefix, the prefix a, which, despite it being just one letter, is very important and even invigorating meaning. It adds a kind of an idea of dynamism towards, like the Latin advenire, the advent, fliction, affliction. Means it also reverses motion. It's like, so gum to go, agam to come, dana, giving, adana, taking. Also means going towards or bringing towards. You often get these two or even three of these verbal prefixes at the same time. Now, many of you will be familiar with the word samadhi. I'm pretty sure everyone here will be familiar with the word samadhi. Well, what is it? It's simply these three elements, sam, a, the. This the, meaning the idea of placing, putting, adi, putting towards yourself. The sum is a gathering, the conjoining. So you can act it out. This sum adhi, it's the gathering in, bringing towards yourself and placing. It's the gathering in and placing is the literal meaning of that word. So it's gathering what is scattered and what is wide, gathering it into one central point. I'm glad you liked it, Deborah. So we do a lot of that in the Sanskrit and Pali classes I've done. And we will see more and more as we go along that this actual etymology here, it's not just dry, boring linguistic history. It very often brings you to a point where these words that we know so well, you get the aha moment. Now I see what it means. So this is a little rabbit hole arising out of Sandhi. And I can't for the life of me remember at what point we started. As we emerge from the rabbit hole, at what point did we start to go down? Can anyone help me?
Yes, you said, who knows what sandy means?
Ah, right, okay. Jolly good, thank you. And why did I ask that?
Kulesu
I can't. It's not a trick question. Sorry.
Kulesu and Anugidho.
And thank you, Simon, and Jeremy, who were both coming in to help. Thank you. Okay. Kulesu and Anugidho were quite right. In the analysis box down there, I've written it with the Kulesu and Anugidho was written as two separate words, Kulesu and Anugidho, leaving the U in place. And all I'm saying here on a point of Sandhi, that in Sanskrit, it's a strict rule always applied. In Pali, a bit more lax, sometimes applied, sometimes not. You will see where you get a word ending in an U and another word ending in a different vowel, the final U will just become a V sound. So not Kulesu and Anugidho, but Kulesu and Anugidho. It'll become a consonant rather than a vowel. So you will see Pali texts differing whether they're texts that have been created in typically Sri Lanka, Thailand, or Burma. You will see both forms, Kulesu Anugidho or Kulesu Anugidho. There's no effect on the meaning, no effect at all on the meaning. So if any of you have any queries arising out of that, I'll be very happy to take them now, or alternatively queries can come later, not a problem, always free to raise them, and we can go on to the next verse.
James.
Yes, please, Deborah. Sorry, Anne. Sorry.
I'm sorry, but I don't know where to get those pages.
That's what I was going to ask.
The ones that you're showing us, they're like those Sanskrit ones, but for the Pali, I don't know where to find them.
You mean this text that I've got up now?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Over the course of the past, I don't know, 10 weeks, 10 or more weeks, I've sent out various emails that include them all.
It was on an email sent on the 23rd of August.
Well done, you see. So what I'm going to do, there are some of you who may not have seen them all or who joined late. So what I will do within the course of the next day or two is to send out to those of you who have newly joined just an email that includes all of the various attachments that I previously sent. So at least you can all have the one thing in the one place. In fact, I might send that out as a group email. So a lot of you will be receiving this material duplicated, but at least we can then make sure that everybody has got everything. It will be made available to you, Anne.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Russell, please come in.
It is also now in the chat if anyone needs it. That document.
Oh, right. Okay. Thanks very much,
No
Russell.
problem.
Thank you. So we will look now at verse 3. In fact, I'm aware that many of you will, of course, know the whole Metta Sutta by heart. And indeed, Dilly, who is with us, raise your hand, Dilly. Everyone, Dilly, you see, knew the whole of this, has the advantage with her upbringing of having known the Metta Sutta by heart ever since you were a little girl, I suspect.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So, Nacha kuddang samachare kinchi yena vinyu pare upavadayung sukhino vakhe mino huntu sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta.
Itatta.
Samachare nacha. Everyone knows na means not. Cha means and. So nacha, remember the cha is always joined to a preceding word. You can never start a sentence or a group with a cha. It has to join. You can never say cha, na, and not. You have to say nacha. Same as the Latin neque. Nacha kuddam samachare kinchi.
Inci.
Now, would you like to mute, Dilly, because we're all hearing your private musings, which can worry. Now, look at it here. Look, I've got a little bit of a bonus here. I've just spoken to you about the root dha and how you put two prefixes to get samadhi. We've got exactly samachare. We've got the root with two means to commit an act, to do something in a manner in which I will explain. So let me call up iPad again. Oops, sorry. Here we are. There we are, samachar. It means to commit something, to commit an act. And this, we've got some lovely etymology here and some quite unexpected etymology. It comes from the root. Remember, this plus sign actually represents the mathematical square root sign. It's the sign that we use when we refer to something as being a root. And that root, remember the C, by convention, the C is always a ch, so it's a char. And by an entertaining little bit of etymology, if that word looks like the English word car, it's because it is, because the root char means to go or to move. And we see that same root char sometimes as a k and sometimes as a ch. We see it in the word chariot, cart, carriage, car. They are all from that same root, the idea of going, or that which helps you to go, the carriage, the cart, the car. So acharati, just this ending ati is the third singular, he, she, or it goes. You'll know that. So acharati literally is to this toward, to move towards something, is the root meaning of it. You very often, with these roots roots having a short a followed by a single consonant, very, very numerous, you will often make a verbal noun by lengthening the a to chara. So from the verb acharati, you get achara, of which the root meaning is towards, dynamic, achara, moving towards something. That's the root meaning, but it has come to mean one's conduct, what you habitually move towards, your way of conducting yourself in life. That's the achara, moving towards something. By the way, an interesting derivative from that is the acharya, which has come to mean a teacher, but it means the person who will guide you, teach you conduct. The conduct man is the acharya. The acharya. Meaning a teacher, somebody who guides you on your own conduct, the conduct man. We all know this word, or most of us will know this word in a different form because of a peculiarity of the phonetics of Thai. So what happens in Thai, by the way, it's the word Ajahn in Thai. We all know the Ajahn as a title of respect for a senior monk. The reason it comes Ajahn is because the R stays the same. A ch between vowels becomes a j sound. Not in Pali and Sanskrit. This is purely this is a feature of the phonetics of Thai specifically. Then the next R stays the same. And then what happens? The Thais often drop off the final syllable when they're pronouncing it in Thai. And when a word in Thai then ends in a r, they actually pronounce it, again, a peculiarity of Thai phonetics, as a n. So what is acharya in Sanskrit, acharya in Pali becomes, essentially the same word, becomes ajan in Thai. So that explains ajan for you. I think all of you will be, or most of you certainly will be familiar with that word Ajahn, frequently used among the Thais as a title of respect for a senior monk. So it literally just means teacher, or Mr. Conduct Man, the man who tells us about our correct conduct. It also means a particular kind of practice, something that you regularly do and go towards. The word yoga, but yoga, we know, okay. So if you put yoga achara, which we know as yogachara, many of you will be familiar with that word, yogachara, the yoga practice, which within Theravada Buddhism is a particular form of practice. By the way, by another application of sandhi, I told you you get to know the word well soon, yoga achara, the a merged together into an a. So yoga achara becomes yogachara. Oh, sorry, was there a raised hand there?
It's me.
Okay, Dilly, yes.
Yeah.
Please.
In Sinhalese, we have something called achara dharma. That means practices of achara.
The practices of achara.
Achara dharma.
So does that mean something like
discipline, practicing the good guidance kind of meaning.
Okay, right. So that
Yeah.
would mean the dharma of
Dharma. Achara dharma.
of correct conduct.
Yes.
Okay,
Conduct.
right. Yeah, that certainly
Good
makes
conduct.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Some of you will heard me say before, there are some of us in this group who will be at a distinct advantage because their own native languages are close descendants of what we're studying now. So many of the words will be words that they use in their everyday lives. In fact, we have three such persons with us here. We have Shri Nimala and Dilli, whose native language is Sinhala, and Professor Nirmal Gupta, you see, whose native language is Hindi. So, of course, Hindi is just, in fact, more and more as time goes on, Hindi is a direct descendant of Sanskrit. But in modern times, you see, I think Hindi is deliberately actually incorporating more and more pure Sanskrit words into it. And I think it might be true to say that 100 years ago, if you wanted to say thank you in Hindi, it would have been sound very odd to use the Sanskrit word dhanyavad. You just say shukriya, which is the Urdu form, you see, ultimately from Arabic, shukran, shukriya. And it would have been rather odd, I think, 100 years ago in ordinary conversation to say dhanyavad. You say, oh, why is he using this Sanskrit word? But am I right in saying, Professor Nirmal, that nowadays it would be far more regular and common to hear people using the Sanskrit word dhanyavad?
Absolutely right.
I'm
Because of the new government, which is more towards Sanskrit.
Yes. Okay, right. Yes, it's what they call the Sanskrit May Hindi. I think you called it Hindi, embodying or comprising more and more Sanskrit. So there we are.
I
So
want to add a word for what you discussed with Dilli. She said, Achara Dhamma.
Achara dharma. Yes.
In Sanskrit, it is Dharmacharya.
That's
so
the
a dharmacharya would mean a dharma teacher.
dharma teacher. Yes.
Yeah.
This is the teaches
Yeah.
the Dharma.
Yeah.
But I think it's got a slightly different meaning than in Sinhala, if I
Yes.
understood you correctly. So it is
Yes.
a dharma in the sense of a teaching. What kind of teaching? An achara dharma. So it's not dharmachara, but achara dharma. So
Yes.
it's your dharma is a dharma of achara. So it's the
Yes.
same words, but conjoined with a slightly different meaning in that way. But I hadn't heard your Sinhala form of it before. Interesting that.
That word has now been incorporated into the new Hindi also.
I'm sorry, say again, Nirmal?
Dharmacharya word has now been incorporated in Hindi also.
Into Hindi also. So what meaning would it have in regular modern Hindi?
It's a routine word now, being used in Hindi.
We also use dharmacharya as a degree. Or I mean, when you're educated, yeah, dharmacharya.
Ah, right. I see what you mean. Right. So as I say, everyone, we've got three people here who've got a major advantage that so much of the vocabulary that we're studying is part of their own native languages. So getting back to this Nachakudam Samachare Kinchi. So achere we know means to conduct yourself in a certain way or to act in a certain way. Put the prefix some in front of it, and that has the idea of the completion, the finalized doing of it. You commit to it. You have committed the act. So this acharya is your tendency towards behaving in that way. Samacharati means that you actually do it. You do finally perform that act. So let one not commit any kuddam, which in Sanskrit is shudra. Pali becomes kudda. Now, I've done a note on it because this Shudra, by the way, hopefully you will have got by now, I'm sure you have that. In the written analyses I do, to save me having to say the entire time, this is Sanskrit and this is Pali, we get two word forms written like that, one in red, one in green. The one in red is the Sanskrit form, the one in green is the Pali form. So it just means that something small or trifling. I think it's come into Urdu's khurda as well, because kshudra went into Persian as khurde and back into Urdu's khurda, just meaning something small or trifling. So in a kshudra, kudda, it's often translated as not do the slightest thing that the wise might later blame you for. I think it has a slightly more profound meaning than that. As I've explained there, I think it has actually the meaning of something, something mean or petty or nasty. So just as in English from the French word petit, which means small, then we have that in English as petty, in the sense of petty-minded, just being mean towards people. And that is, I mean, I would argue, not with complete conviction, but I would argue that that is the better way to interpret kudda here. I'm not saying the other interpretations are wrong, but as very, very often happens, you will have an inbuilt, not ambiguity, but even ambivalence. It will mean both at the same time. We might even be invited to hold both meanings in our minds at the same time. As I discussed with the word in verse 2, this so even in verse 1, Suvacho Chasamudua. Suvacho, yes, Suvacho. This it's got two possible meanings. There's the more overt meaning speaking nicely. And there's alternative meaning is much more morally significant. It means easy to talk to. In other words, he will gracefully accept being told that he's wrong, or gracefully accept being told that he could do better. Now that is quite anyone can speak nicely, but to be able to accept admonition, that's the moral virtue. But the word suvacho, su, good, nice, beautiful, easy, and vacha, speech, will embody both those meanings. It may be that we are invited or tacitly invited to hold both of those meanings in our minds simultaneously. It happens the entire time. Simon, please.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that just as they must be separable in the sense that, okay, petty can mean petty-minded, but we have like petty officer, petty bourgeoisie, which has no moral overtone.
Yeah.
Kudda, we're in the Kuddaka Nikaya, aren't we? So, we're at the end of the Kuddaka Nikaya in this particular.
We are indeed. Okay. In that meaning, of course, clearly there's nothing petty or mean about it. It just means small. But in certain contexts, just as from French petit, our English word petty, you can have a petty officer. There might be nothing petty about him at all. But in certain contexts, it can have the pejorative meaning. So equally, it can in Pali. So it doesn't necessarily have it, but it's just so. Which one do we plump for? Which side do we come down on? Answer is we don't necessarily have to come down on either side. We can just hold both possibilities in our mind at the same time, which we will quite frequently encounter in Pali and Sanskrit. And my favorite example of this, of a deliberate, not ambiguity, but ambivalence, both equally valid at the same time, as many of you will have heard me quoting this line from Thomas Gray, Elegy in a Country Churchyard, which runs, "And all the air a solemn stillness holds." Now, which is the subject and which is the object? Does it mean all the air holds a solemn stillness, or a solemn stillness holds all the air? Because normally in English we do subject, verb, object, but here the verb is at the end, and it wasn't as if Thomas Gray didn't know what he was talking about, but he beautifully created this ambivalence whereby both meanings exist at the same time. It's a beautiful poetic ambivalence there. So frequently we're going to see in Pali and Sanskrit where you get the same kind of phenomenon occurring, and to say, well, which is right? Is it that or that? Is just the wrong question to ask. Just as wrong to say, well, which one did Thomas Gray mean? Well, was inviting us to hold both in our minds at the same time. Back to where we were. So kimchi just means anything, or in a negated sentence, it means nothing. Actually, the word kim on its own means just what, same in Sanskrit and Pali, kim, king. If you put chi at the end of it, in Sanskrit it would be chit, but if you chi at the end of it, it just makes it general. So kin means what, kinchi means anything, something. And for example, ko means who. Kochi means somebody or other. In Sanskrit would be kashchit, but in Pali, kochi. So that's the meaning of this chi at the end. Anything. Yena, that's the relative pronoun, and it literally means by which. It's the instrumental form by which. And in English we can use whereby, that has exactly the meaning. Let him not do anything mean, whereby yena pare vinu upavadeyum. So pare here means it's a polysemic, a word having several meanings. Here it means later or afterwards. The word is cognate with our English word far. So near and far, what's now and what's happening afterwards, so on.
James?
Simon, please.
Sorry, I think I've asked this one before, but I can't remember your answer. Pare or para can mean another as well as beyond. Obviously, it's got the same kind of basic meaning, another one.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So given that they're in agreement, why doesn't that mean that the other wise people, so your kind of elders in the monastery or whatever, would reprove rather than the wise would later reprove?
Okay, I'd certainly take your point, and it had actually crossed my mind earlier whether that could be the correct interpretation, and what mostly decided me, I can't 100% say that that interpretation is wrong, but I do not recall ever having seen para meaning other coming after the noun that it qualifies. So if it wanted to be the other wise men, it was just as a matter of usage, it would have to be parevenu. If it were parevenu, then yes, okay, genuine ambiguity there. Later, the wise or other wise people. But here it's a question of word order. And word order is rather more fluid in Pali and Sanskrit than it is in English. But there are certain orders that you just don't see, and para meaning other, following the noun it qualifies. I don't recall having seen it, and it would just clash in my brain if it meant that. There's that, and also the pare as an adverbial expression of time, as, so to speak, a standard known expression meaning afterwards, later.
James,
Yes, Marion, please.
you said it would normally the word order would be the other way round if you wanted it to have a different meaning. Is the does the rhythm of because it's a chant,
Mm-hmm.
are words ever put in an order to make the sentence, to make the phrase sound good or scan or become more rhythmic than it would do if it was a piece of prose?
You certainly, yes, a good point. That certainly does happen. It routinely happens. But it does routinely happen, yes, but there is kind of a limit to even how flexible you can be. Even in poetry, there is a limit to how flexible you can be. Actually, are you beginning to convert me? Could it have been a poetical transposition of those two words? It would still jar with me. I mean, you've made a good point. And if you wanted to argue that pere here means other, that is one of the points that you would add to your argument. It would add to the weight of the evidence. But normally you find that the word order doesn't get too far distorted from what you would find in prose. What does happen that the Pali poets very frequently do, which incidentally does not happen in Sanskrit, is they alter vowel lengths to suit the meter. The writers of Pali poetry routinely alter a vowel length to suit them. For example, right in verse 1, we're Saku ujucha, suhujucha, that long u there does not belong. It's a short u. And we chanted, for example, in the Itipiso chant, Ujjupatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sango. There is in its correct normal form, Ujju with a short u, Ujju. But there it is. It turns up in poetry with a long u. It happens the whole time in Pali. You've just got to get used to it, or get used to with it, as my boonman used to say. Get used to with it. As I say, Sanskrit is much more precise in its grammar, and it's not allowed in Sanskrit, but it's routine in Pali. In fact, it's done twice, ujucha, suhujucha. It's the same word emphasized, suhuju. Has Marion started to cast, or Simon and Marion between them, casting a doubt in my mind as to whether it does mean other? It often happens that during one of these sessions I can say, no, I don't agree with you, and I'll come back next week. So actually you might be right. It's happening the whole time. And don't worry, I mean, as I get older, I love being proved wrong more and more. It means I get rid of a bit more rubbish out of my old brain. So please do challenge and question.
Just to say, the translation of the Metta Sutta in the chanting book has other.
Does it?
Yeah.
Goodness me. I think I'm being forced into a retreat here. Okay. Bear in mind, okay, thank you, Sarah. Do bear in mind that where you have a translation that's a straight translation, not a heavily annotated, footnoted translation like mine, the translator's got to come down one side or the other. Because if it's an ambivalence that's there in the original language that you can't repeat in English, one of them has to be chosen. For example, the example that I gave you, all the air a solemn stillness holds. For example, if you were translating into a language then that distinguished between nominative and accusative, you couldn't do it because one of those phrases would have to be nominative, the other phrase would have to be in the accusative. And if it's a language where the nominative and the accusative would differentiate, that language just wouldn't be able to express that ambiguity. For instance, if you translate it well, Russian is one language where it would be impossible to translate that line and retain the ambiguity. Because you'd have to be the silence. You'd have to be a tishina nominative or tishinu accusative. You can't have the ambiguity there. So okay, I'm being forced onto the back foot on this one. Thank you to Simon and Marion and Sarah.
Just to push you back a little bit further.
Oh, come on, Simon. Be slightly kind to me. Thank God it's coming up to two minutes to 4. You might have forgotten by the time we get to 4. Carry on, Simon. Sorry, I mustn't be facetious.
Sujato agrees.
Well, with
me, yeah, that others wise would blame.
Sorry, say again. I didn't catch.
That others who are wise would blame.
Okay. Okay, I might give a formal declaration of surrender next time. Let me just look a little bit further. I'm quite happy to be proved wrong, honestly. And upavadayum, we'll just look at the ayum. We've got several optative endings here. Okay, several of you will not have encountered optatives. That you've got the indicative, just a statement of fact. The optative is just an expression of wish or possibility or something like that. For example, he or she commits an act would be samacharati with the ending ati. That would be identical in Sanskrit and Pali. Charati, samacharati. But instead of the ati, put an a on the end, and that can be a or aya with the same meaning. That's known as the optative form, meaning let none commit such an act. And here, they blame, as in an indicative, a statement of fact, they blame would be upavedanti, but they could blame as upavadeyum. But we see this very, very commonly in Pali, and we'll get to it quite soon in the grammar section of Ger and Karunatilaka. Hopefully you will have seen the list of abbreviations or explanation of abbreviations that I sent out. Hopefully you have all received it. That explains things like 3PA, which means third person, present active, pop, meaning present optative. Sorry, third plural active, present optative. So all these different facts that can be known about a verb just by looking at its ending. Please don't feel overwhelmed. All will become clear as we go along. Just let bits stick to you as we go. So we've just gone 4. So we will resume in 15 minutes after a comfort break, and I'll see you at 4:15. Thank you. Right, so we can resume. So whereby the wise later or otherwise people may blame him. Upavadayum. This is the, call up iPad again. Well, we have the root, this upavadayum, meaning to blame, literally to up-talk. Just has the meaning of to blame. So the root vad is one of there are a few of them meaning to speak or to say. Vad is one of them. And it makes a verbal noun. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of these roots with a short, where I'm bringing here, a short a followed by a single consonant, will lengthen that to a when it makes a verbal noun. So charchara. So equally, we have vad and vada. So vada literally just means saying, but by extension of meaning, it also comes to mean teaching. And we know this word, for example, in Theravada, Sarvastivada. It's that same Vada. So the Theravada is the elder teaching, the teaching of the elders. Does it? I don't know if anybody here, I may have explained this years ago when some of you were with me at the previous classes. Does anyone know what terra actually means and what English word it's cognate with?
Elder, I think. Elder.
I'm sorry, Nirmal?
Therapy.
Terra means elder.
It does mean elder, but do you know why it means elder?
Is it standing over? Is it or?
You're getting hot there, Jeremy. You're getting very warm indeed. It is to do with in fact, this is one of the reasons I often go back to Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, it is stavira. Let me write it for you. Stavira.
Yeah, now I remember. It goes back to the first Sangiti, which was held in Rajgir, 3 months after the Mahaparinibbana of the Buddha. So at that time, all the elders were called Sthavir.
Oh, right. Okay. Stavir.
Then after 100 years, when the second Sangiti was conducted in Vaisali at the time of Kalasok, some of the Vaisali Puttas, they are known as, they deviated from the 10 Vathuni, the 10 rules of Vinaya.
Yes.
And they become Sarvastivada. And then at that time, the Sthavirvada and Sarvastivada formed.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Later, at the time of Emperor Asoka, Mahasthavir, Sarvastivadins, because they had lots of people, bhikkhus who were not following the rules of Vinaya. 60,000 of them were expelled from the
60,000. That is a pretty tough and drastic remedy. That 60,000 expelled.
Expelled from the Sangha.
Oh, well. So let that be a lesson for us all. We don't want to risk that expulsion. Thank you very much, Professor. So, this word then, stavira, it's actually from the root, our well-known root, sta, meaning to stand. In fact, our English word stand comes from that same root. It's the same one that we have in Latin as stare, to stand, from which we get, for example, a station, just means a standing or a stopping. It means primarily to stand, it also means to stop, or also to be still or firm. So stavira originally had the meaning of standing firm, and therefore of long duration or well established. In fact, I'll just call up onto share the screen. Sooner or later, all of you will get used to what I've just called up on screen. It's the Monia Williams Sanskrit English Dictionary, available in a searchable form online. Although it's dated 1899, it has to this day remained the most reliable and most used Sanskrit English dictionary. And it's actually, I've already called it up. Let me just call it up without highlights. Okay. So let me just. So oops, sorry, I mistyped that. Stavira. So broad, thick, solid. And an old, ancient, or venerable, and then an old man. So he's been there for a long time. He's got the stability of the old man. And then, as he's put, there's Moni Williams has put an elder with the Buddhists. You often find that words go through as they transition between Sanskrit and Pali, or from Sanskrit to Pali. They will often go through certain changes of sound, often quite considerable changes of sound. And they sometimes in Pali might become even unrecognizable. On the face of it, stavira, or rather on the face of it, tera, the Pali tera, does not look as if it comes from stavira, but it just does. What happens is that whenever you get a word in Sanskrit beginning with, say, an S plus a stop consonant, a t, p, k, or like that, st, that would just be. Thank you, Fanny. You see, well done. You've got to tell me when I'm writing. So sta becomes a ta, and just as, for example, the 5 skandhas in Sanskrit, it's a skandha. In Pali, it's a kandha. That's a regular feature. The S followed by a stop consonant. The stops being the k, t. It will just become aspirated. So sk to k. That's regular mutation. So stavira. Now here we've got the sta. Let's write it here. So the sta has become a ta, as we would expect. The ra at the end remains the same. You often find that where you get vowel with v plus another vowel, a v, often that will just soften out into one single consonant. That's why stavira becomes tera. From stavira, its equivalent in Latin is stabilis, from which in English we have stable, something not moving, firm, solid, stable. So in fact, on the face, you have to be told to find where to look, but the Pali tera and the English word stable are etymologically the same word. So as you've seen here, often the changes into Pali from Sanskrit will be much greater than the changes from the ancient Indo-European even into modern English. So in Sanskrit, the Theravada would be the Staviravada, the teaching of the elders. So back to our text then. Yeah. So whereby, okay, otherwise meant upavadeyum, might uptalk you. That's just a word meaning to upbraid you, to blame you, give you a talking to. So, nachakudam samachare kinchi. By the way, there's no expressed subject of this sentence. Often when you see an optative expressed without any subject, it's like a general advice, general exhortation to act in a certain way. So here it means let one not, or let nobody do, without an expressed subject of that verb. So let not anybody do anything kudda, whereby the pare venu or venu pare upavedeyum might blame you. Sukhino vakemino huntu sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta. So sukha means essentially happiness. But of course, immediately beware of giving it a single translation. Sukha. Sukha has got one of those. Sukha and dukkha, the opposite. It's the same ka. So sukha and dukkha are opposite phenomena, opposite states. But oddly enough, it's from a primitive root, ka, alternatively kan. As a verb form, it's kan. And the essence of it means emptiness, well, not a philosophical shunya, in a physical sense, hollow, a space. Or a hole, a cavity, a void. So this ka, ka and kan, very, very primitive root, meaning to dig. We find it, for example, it comes into Latin, cavus, meaning a cave, something that's hollowed out of a mountain. It's the same ka, meaning hollow or space. In its can form, we have it even in modern English as a canal. It's a river or stream artificially dug. In fact, in Persian, the word for to dig is kandan. And as a suffix, it just essentially means a space or a hollow. So sukha has been interpreted in two ways. One of them is interpreting the word ka as the axle hole in a wheel, in the wheel of a cart, the wooden wheel. You have the axle and you have the cavity, the hole that the axle fits into. Now, if the axle fits smoothly into the hole, it is sukha, everything moves smoothly. But if it does not fit well, it is dukkha, badly fitting, bumpy ride, is the opposite of sukha and dukkha. Sometimes it's been interpreted as just as meaning a good space. Again, slightly ambivalent. What it probably means, or most likely means, all of these things. Being in a good place, sukha, good place. Sukha, by the way, is both a noun and an adjective. It means it's sukha, happiness, the state of being in a good place. It's also an adjective meaning happy. Incidentally, by way of even more fun etymology, in Greek, that ka, oops, my pen's not working properly, became cha, which in the Greek cha, also on its own meaning, a space or a place, an emptiness, actually, an emptiness. The standard, one of the standard, or the most common Greek noun ending is os. Lo and behold, chaos. So the ka of the chaos in Greek, which we pronounce in modern English as chaos, it's the idea of the disorder of emptiness. That was the original meaning of chaos, the emptiness. There was no structure within it. It's also, oddly enough, where we get the word gas from, because gas can proceed around in a disorderly, chaotic manner, got no structure to it, unlike a solid structure. So chaos, gas, sukha, the ka, ga, is all from that same origin, meaning empty space. Oddly enough, at the beginning of the opening lines of the book of Genesis, the word in Hebrew tohu avohu, was it the other one, vohu atohu, meaning void and empty. That same word is a different word, of course, but the same meaning in Hebrew, the idea of the emptiness, meaning a chaos before the creation, before the imposition of order on the chaos, on the emptiness. So all of this vast range of meaning we see from this just this little primitive root ka or kan, meaning a hole or empty. So anything from gas, chaos, sukha, dukkha, cavity, cave, canal, all from that same root, that same origin. So I said that sukha is both a noun and an adjective. In this word that we see here, sukhino, what has happened is that we have the word sukha treated as a noun, but then an adjective formed from the noun sukhin, meaning having happiness. It's the very frequent ending in, of which the nominative singular is e. And the easiest way to remember that is like this. We have got the word we all know, this Sanskrit and Pali word that we all know because it's come into English, yoga. And we all know what a yogi is. A yogi is a person who practices yoga, often used in Buddhist circles, in the sense one who's practicing meditation. So one can either doing physical yoga or, as it were, a Buddhist practice, also called a yogi. Yogi is actually just the masculine singular form of the stem form yogin. If you look at it, and this, the adding, taking away the a and putting an in on the end is a very, very common way of making an adjective or an agent noun out of a noun. So a yogin is somebody who does yoga. We have the Theravada, the teaching of the elders. A Theravadin is one who follows the teaching of the elders. The Sarvastivada, one of the other early schools of Buddhism that Professor Nirmal just mentioned. Somebody who follows that school is a Sarvastivadin, of which the nominative singular form would be Sarvastivadi. So a Sukhin is somebody, means an adjectival form meaning happy, and it makes its nominative plural sukhino. You don't have to remember every single detail. I see some of you are making quite an effort to remember every detail. I can see the look of concentration on Qian Hui's face. I know Qian Hui loves to remember detail. Don't try to remember all of the detail. We'll come to it.
I want to say something.
Yeah,
Can I say something?
Please, of course you may, Sri Animala.
Yeah,
please come in.
What we learn, and one in my book, is say, Nacha Buddhang Samachinena. Nacha Buddhang.
Nacha Buddhang?
Yeah. Nacha Buddhang Samacharena Kinchino.
Mean with it putting a B above here?
Yeah, Buddhang.
Like that?
That's why I was looking to everywhere. Yeah. not Buddha, Buddha.
No, I don't think I've seen. Sorry, I've messed that up now. I don't think
Yeah.
I've seen that before. Is there some kind of? Are you able to send me a link or just send me?
The book I'm reading, the one we learned from the small age, the book, but I have everything is written in Natya Buddha Samachari.
If you could send me a copy of that page,
yeah, okay.
I'd be very grateful. I'll look at it in between now and our next session because I'm interested to hear that. In fact, that's an interesting point there that Shinamala has just raised. You do find very frequently you find slight variations between, typically between Sri Lankan, Thai, and Burmese editions.
Yeah. Yes.
Mostly they don't matter, and mostly they're just alternative ways of saying exactly the same thing. Occasionally, you get variant readings that do actually make a difference, and that is why Srinimala, I'll be grateful if you could send me a copy of that page.
I will do it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That would be interesting. So, Sukhinova Khemino Huntu. Sabbe Satta Bhavantu Sukhitatta. Khema, I've done a note on it. Have I done a note on it? Yes, I have. Yes, it's from the root kshi, meaning to dwell or to inhabit. Sometimes you'll say, what's that root got to do with feeling safe? Well, just you can trace it. Go into soft focus to trace the meaning of these roots. So kshi is a root meaning to dwell or to inhabit. It becomes kshema, and in Pali, khema. Incidentally, this is a very regular mutation. Very frequently, when you see a k in Sanskrit, it comes out as a k in Pali. For example, bhikshu in Sanskrit with a kr, bhikshu, this is bhikkhu in Pali. That's a regular mutation that we see the entire time. So kshema, the idea of your habitation or your home, and by then with the extended meaning of the place where you feel safe. So if you then make the kema, safety, make an adjective out of that by adding in, so kemin, Sanskrit kshemin, Pali kemin, nominative singular kemi, plural kemino, this means in a state of kema, in a state of safety, feeling secure and safe. So basically it's saying here, may all people be happy and secure, in a state of ease and safety. And there's this lovely phrase that we see both in the Sanskrit texts and in the Pali ones, the yoga kshema, Pali yoga kema. Yoga is actually from the root yuj. Let me yuj, meaning to join. It makes a verbal noun. Two changes happen, both routine and regular. The u becomes an o to make the verbal noun o, and the j becomes a g. So yoga. Incidentally, this is a regular feature. So bhuj, bhoga, vij, vega. The j often becomes a g when it becomes a verbal noun. And the same between k and ch. And in case you're wondering, why do they do this annoying thing that increases our burden of memory by switching between k and ch? Well, we actually have remnants of that in modern English. But it goes the other way around. Remnants in modern English between a k and a ch, between a verb and a noun. We find, for example, the verb to speak and the noun speech, k, ch, and the verb to break and the noun breach. Stink and stench. So this k, ch, ch variation between verb and noun. It just goes the other way around in Sanskrit and Pali. So yoga literally means to join. And in Latin, yoga, it's jungere. It's the same etymologically the same word. And our modern English, joint and junction and join are from the same root. And via Latin into English, but via the Germanic languages into English, we also have yoke, as in Y-O-K-E, which is the yoke of the oxen, something that joins the oxen together. So it means that that's the basic meaning, but it also, in the sense of bhavana, the sense of one's spiritual practice, has the meaning of an effort or an exertion, making an effort. And that it has something of that meaning in yogis, ones who are, making that effort in their spiritual practice. And that's the meaning that it has in this yoga kshema, the rest, the security, the ease after the effort. You've made the effort, then you can enjoy the merits of it. Excuse me, I've just got the sun coming in across my screen. I'm going to put a blind down. 1 second.
James?
Simon, you've muted suddenly, Simon.
Sorry, just to make the point, sometimes yoga kema is translated in the original sense as kind of freedom from the yoke, the same as like laying down the bhara or burden, that the burden of existence or the khandhas. It's sometimes got that translation.
Okay, that's slightly ingenious because I'm not sure that yoga actually has the meanings does yoga actually have the meaning of a yoke as in a burden?
I think it's like the fetter, the
fetter. Okay, actually, so the standard word for the standard word for a fetter is from that same root, but a different word. Something. Hang on, two these screens open at the same time. Here we are. Is Sangyojana is the standard word for a fetter. It's that same yog. The sangyo, something that binds you to something. That's the standard word that's used in Pali, meaning the fetters. But yes, I certainly won't. I mean, the from yoga kema, the meaning that I've normally ascribed to it in my own mind is the one I've just described. The rest from exertion, as if you've earned the reward. But certainly that alternative one, how did you translate freedom from the burden?
Something like that, yeah.
No.
In the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, towards the end somewhere. I've just been reading it in advance of the course we're both going on.
In November, you mean?
Yeah.
Will you be on that one, the one with Chris Murray-Jones?
God willing.
Sorry?
God willing, yes.
Okay, well, wonderful, Simon. I've been seeing you on screen for so many years. I'll now see you face to face for the first time because I will be on it as well.
I think in there somewhere it's got about that Yoga Kema and whoever, I think it might be Ananda Jyoti whose translation Chris favors, as he sent to me.
Okay.
Got freedom from the yoke. So just like as in laying down the burden. And
I'll be right with you, Jeremy, as soon as the time's up. Thanks.
It's like laying down the burden of the khandhas.
That, I like that as an as a kind of parallel alternative. You can hold them both in your mind at the same time. So I'm certainly not going to say it's wrong. I will kind of accept it as the alternative meaning that you hold at the same time. So already within this one lesson, we've had several things where you can perfectly legitimately and with a sense of ease hold both meanings simultaneously. Anyway, no doubt we'll be discussing this topic further when we meet in November. Jeremy, please come in.
Yes, all it was in the Pali Text Society dictionary. Yoga came in as given as finding one's rest, peace, or salvation, emancipated, free, and arahant.
Okay, right. So that's the finding one's emancipation or rest. Does it specifically translate yoga in that translation?
No, it's one of these things where yoga is the lead
Okay,
word.
Right, yeah.
And then there's a series of compounds.
Right. Okay.
It translates.
Okay, well, this actually just demonstrates further how translations, however good the translation, can only go so far. You go back into the Pali and just widen out the meaning, which is in fact the core of the reason why we're all here. I mean, there's plenty of translations, any number of translations, some superb translations. So I say from my Pali translator hero Bhikkhu Bodhi, and there are numerous really high quality ones. But however good the translator, it will always suffer from the inherent limitation on any translation. You never get to the living vibrancy of feeling it in the original language.
Just found a good one, James. Yoga Kemi Sutta. Yoga Kemi Pariyayam Vo Bhikkave. So translated as I will teach you an exposition of the sanctuary from the yoke. Again, that's Sujato.
Okay, right. Sujato has done a very, very fine job. It's in the Sutta Central, I think, that a lot of Sujato's translations appear. He occasionally, I have a great admiration for him, but I will say, and I would say it to his face as well, he occasionally sticks his neck out a bit in his translations. So, for example, in just one sutta that we're reading at our Manchester Centre at the moment, where the cry went out, piyata bunjata khatata, meaning to drink, and then two words for to eat, one meaning to eat a soft food and the other to eat a hard food. But Sujato translated it as eat, drink, and be merry. And I said, well, hang on, yes, that's a well-known English phrase, eat, drink, and be merry, but he's taking a bit of a liberty with the Pali there by using a colloquial or very well-established colloquial English phrase, but Pali doesn't mention merriness. So I really do like and admire Sujata's translations, but as a pure linguist, be slightly cautious because he will fill out the meaning a bit. Incidentally, I've mentioned Bhikkhu Bodhi. One of the reasons Bhikkhu Bodhi is particularly, or Bhikkhu Bodhi's translations from Pali are particularly useful, and he's translated all of the Nikayas apart from the Digha. And the Pali text, not Pali, wisdom publications have published all of his translations. the great value of Bhikkhu Bodhi for Pali students is he very, very closely follows exactly what the Pali says without taking liberties. Sometimes I've heard the complaint that his translations sound a little bit wooden. Well, maybe so, but for Pali students, you can very safely follow what Bhikkhu Bodhi says, within, as I say, the overall limitation, the inherent limitations of all translations.
Bhikkhu Bodhi on that one, that's Samyutta Nikaya 35104, he translates that similarly as secure from bondage.
And from bondage,
And I think with regard to Sujato, I mean the best one that I've seen from him is that he says on one occasion the Buddha, the Blessed One, spent the night on the banks of a billabong.
A billabong? No, that's singing Waltzing Matilda. He's not Australian, is he?
Oh yeah.
Sujato is Australian, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, that. I do like that one. That's made my afternoon. The banks of a billabong. Okay, where were we? Yes, Sukino va Kemino Huntu. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta. You see, Huntu, may they be, and bhavantu, may they be. Let me just explain that. This is a softened, linguistically we call it lenited, lenitian, softened form of the same word. So let me just explain that. Sanskrit, he, she, or it is, third person singular, bhavati. And in Pali, you also use either the identical form, bhavati, he, she, or it is, or a colloquially softened, lenited form, which is hoti. So what's happened with the hoti? What's happened there is that the aspirated consonant, the b, has softened to a h, and the ava has softened to an o. It's just like a colloquial abbreviation of it. So bhavati, hoti are essentially the same word, but bhavati is the more literary form of it. Hoti is the more colloquial form of it. But by the time we get into the Pali scriptures, there is no distinction whatsoever of meaning, or hardly even any more a distinction of tone. So bhavati or hoti is the same meaning exactly. Let's now look at the plural. Bhavati, he, she, or it is. The plural, they are, is bhavanti. So it's the same as the singular, but there's just an N before the T. Those of you who have studied Latin will recognize the identical phenomenon in Latin, where the third person plural typically ends in an NT. And indeed in French, the third person plural typically ends in an NT. Sometimes pronounced, more often not pronounced, but still written. So to reflect the Latin verbs ending in an NT. So bhavanti So just as bhavati can lenite, actually, I'm going to give you this word, we'll be using it so often. Lenition, the softening. It's actually from the Latin word lenis, meaning soft, from which we get the word lenient. But linguistica, a lenition is where one sound is softened to another. So b softened to a h is a lenition. So bhavati by lenition can become hoti. So similarly, bhavanti can become unti. So in Pali, you will see used, in Sanskrit, bhavati and bhavanti are the only correct forms. In Pali, you will see them both equally, and they're both equally correct. Now, note that they both end in a T, or in T, both end in a T. You can make a third person imperative. This is a bit of very simple grammar, and you'll be seeing it again and again. If you change that final T or nti to an U sound, so bhavatu or bhavantu, that makes a third person imperative, meaning may it be, let it be, I wish that it will be so. We have many of you will be very familiar with our blessing chant. Bhavatu, bhavatu sabbamangalang rakhantu sabbadevata. Bhavatu, rakhantu is the third person imperative form, expressing a wish that it should be so. Incidentally, that bit also is the same in Sanskrit and in Pali. So, evam, thus. We have evam maya sutam or evam me sutam, thus by me heard, thus have I heard. Evam thus, let it be so. Evam bhavatu. You say the same in Sanskrit and Pali. Evam bhavatu, let it be thus, let it be so. So here you see both forms used, hontu and bhavantu, even in the same line. Both forms are used, as I say, identical in meaning. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitata. May all beings be. It's almost the same way of saying being happy, but I will explain it. Sabbe satta, all beings. Let's look at which one I'm going to look at first. Sukhitata, let's look at sukhitata, literally happy-selved. I'll explain it. So looking around for, here we are. So we've got this sukha, which I've just been talking about, meaning happiness or happy. You can make a verb, a causative verb out of it, meaning to make somebody happy. And this has, we have the stem there. If you put ayati, just looking at the third person singular here, ayati it's a class 10 verb. We'll come to that. It very often has a causative meaning. So sukhayati means to make happy, to cause somebody to be happy. This ayati ending will often be lenited to eti. So sukhayati is the Sanskrit and one of the two Pali forms of it. So sukhayati is the only correct Sanskrit form. In Pali, you can have sukhayati or sukheti. You will see both, and there's no distinction of meaning there. It makes a past participle in itta. So sukhita is actually a past participle, meaning somebody who has been made happy, caused to be happy. The word that we have here, sukhitata, I've parsed it out here, sukhita ta. And the atta there is the same as our anatta. It's at that same word. So sukhita, made happy, atta, with selves made happy. And let me just explain that form. We have writing. We have our well-known Sanskrit word Atman, very much used in Hindu philosophy. We also have the stem form Paramatman, nominative form Paramatma, the supreme self, the idea of the overself, and much of the idea of Hindu spiritual practice is the idea that you join your own self to the Paramatma. One of the meanings of yoga is that union, the joining of the self to the Paramatma, the over self, the supreme self. So Atman, and in Sanskrit, its nominative singular form is Atma. That's just a grammatical variation on the same word. It's the same word. Has the meaning, crudely translated, means self. And it's used in two, well, more than two, but broadly two very distinct ways. One is the self, which is denied by or negated by the anatta, not non-self. It's often just used in an ordinary language sense. I hurt myself. So if you say hurt myself, you aren't proclaiming the existence of a self. It's just a way of expressing a reflexive action. Hurt myself. And this atma becomes atta in Pali. So the doctrine of anatta, literally non-self, is just atta, unself, non-self. Here, it's used as a suffix, just mean happy-selved. The atta here, Sanskrit atman, is not being used in a philosophical sense of proclaiming the existence of a separate permanent self. It's just it's being used in a more colloquial sense here, and you'll see that regularly in Pali. These two uses of the word atta, mostly to deny the existence of a permanent, enduring self, and equally in this reflexive or colloquial sense, oneself. And that's how we see it here. Sukhitata, the atta, with happy-selved, is happy in themselves in a colloquial rather than a philosophical sense. Yes, Simon.
Yeah, could you explain why it goes from the plural to the singular, in the sense it should be sukhitatano, that having happy selves in the plural?
Sukhitatano, do you say?
Yeah.
Okay, right. In Sanskrit, it would have to be Sukhitatmanaha or Sukhitatmano. What happens in Pali? So in Sanskrit, this is a noun, Atman. It's a consonantal stem ending in an, so that is the stem form. And in Sanskrit, it will remain an N stem throughout the whole of the declension, whether it's used as a noun or as the second member of a compound adjective.
What writing, James?
Sorry?
We can't see you writing.
Ah, sorry. Thank you for calling me out on that. So where are we? Here we are. So it's a Atman. Now, in Sanskrit, happy selved, I'll not apply something. This is Sukhita Atmanaha. It would retain throughout all of its forms, its form as a consonant stem. What happens in Pali, however, is as a noun, it's a consonant stem. So you talk about the atta, attanam, attano of oneself, attani in oneself. When it's used at the end of a compound adjective, it becomes like any other adjective ending in a short a. It becomes an a stem. But that's just the rather laxer rules of Pali enables that to happen. That's why in fact, if you said Sukitatano, it would be rather kind of Sanskritic Pali. It wouldn't be wrong. It's the kind of thing you might expect to see in the later literature when Sanskrit was beginning to have a bit more of an influence. But in the early literature, so when atta is the last member of a compound, it's treated as an a stem nominal. Look, I hope this hasn't put you off too much, this excursus into grammar. Don't worry if it seems a bit too much. All will become clear as we go along. Remember, the main purpose of what we're doing precisely here is just to get a better understanding of what the verse actually means. And you do have some of our diligent students who kind of mastered the grammar up to kind of one lesson behind me, who keep me on my toes. So please do it. Please continue to do so, Simon. So is that clear enough, at least to Simon?
Sort of.
Well, okay, you want it to be Sukitatano for logical reasons. All I'm saying is when it's the second member of a compound, Pali allows atta to become an ordinary a stem.
I'm going to count that as it just is.
No, I'm not quite going to squirm out of it in that way. It's a regular feature of Pali that there are many nouns that have a certain form of declension in Sanskrit, but it becomes a bit more complicated. And then Pali effectively says, well, let's not bother with the complicated bit. Let's just turn it into a simple a stem. It very often happens in Pali.
The a stem still has atano. That's the bit I don't get.
As a noun or as the final member of a compound adjective, do you mean?
Compound thing that makes the change, is it?
I haven't quite followed, Simon. The atano is the noun form.
Yeah, and what is it that makes it different from the normal noun form? If we were talking about selves, we would say atano.
Selves would be atano, yes.
So what is it that makes this particular one? What's the deciding factor that makes that revert to atta rather than atano?
Okay, this one kind of just is. It's one of those nouns that, for example, okay, let's look at the noun manas, mano, which is an S stem. You will see manasa in Pali, manasa, manasi, consonant S stem. But very often you'll find when it comes as the last member of a compound, sukitamana, it will be treated as an a stem. So that particularly happens in compound adjectives. we can both look out for some more to discuss next time. So, Jeremy, were you going to ask something?
No, something entirely different. I mean, you may have covered this already, but I've noticed that you're not including your English translations for this. Normally, it's like the box below the third box down.
Oh, yes. I mean, these things have been composed over several years, and I used to change from one thing to the other. But however, Jeremy, I have been, I don't know if I've tripped over my own complexity. If you look down in this parallel text box where I break it down word by word, if you actually read down the English, ignoring for the moment the indents, may all beings be happy-selved. Okay, so you see what I've done here? Sabbe sata bhavantu, may all beings be. Then sukha, sukhayati, sukheti, sukhita. I've broken down those words in indent and then explained sukhitata non-indented. That means as you read down the right-hand text box, you see, may all beings be happy-selved. That is the translation.
All right, because sort of previously, because I might have printed this off a couple of months ago or whatever, but what I've got is your translation, as it were. The box above the one you've just been talking about with the two columns, just above that, you normally have the translation. So it used to be, well, one should not do bracket, even, close bracket, the slightest thing, bracket, any mean petty thing, etc., etc. But
okay, thank you, Jeremy. I'm not going to as far as to say that I regret doing that. I don't. But I have improved it. And in fact, it was not long before we started the series that I put out this revised edition. You printed off the old edition where I did include the translation. I thought, well, should I still do that? And I decided against it on the grounds that if you read down the right-hand text box, that will give you, with more detail, a kind of translation, everything you need for a translation. But I have now deleted the kind of simple word-for-word translation, which is potentially slightly misleading.
Well, I suppose, as you say, it's better to try and feel your way into a translation rather than have a black and white one.
I take a strong stance against, in what we're doing now, using actual translations, because people can slip into them and say, "Oh, what's this is the translation." Well, occasionally, possibly yes, mostly not. I want to wean you away from translations. Well, as you know from years, then, Jeremy, in these classes, where we're trying to understand it from within the Pali.
Yeah.
So my old edition that you have, I'm encouraging you to use the new one, which is on screen now. Did I have the translations in all of the verses? I can't
Yes,
remember.
originally, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there we are. I would encourage you to use this to use the form in which you see it now. And sabbe sapta just means all beings. Since we're right on 5:15, I won't explain to you at this stage why it's sabbe and not sabba, but not all stems ending in a make the plural in a. This is what we know as the pronominal declension. We've gone slightly more into technical grammar in this session than I would normally have intended, because here we're just having exposure to the text and imbibing the meaning of the text. But I have these people, the diligent students who have spent a long time studying the grammar in detail. Anyway, hopefully it's been of some use. So what we'll do, we'll wind up here. Now we're on 5:15. So any queries, we can either look at them next time round, or I often find that if you email queries, many of these emailed queries are actually useful for the entire class. So many of them I will actually bring up in class for the benefit of you of you all. So hang on, let me just stop sharing. So I thank you all. Thank you for being with me, and see you in a week's time, hopefully.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you all. Thank you then.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Bye. Thank you.